Michael Steinberg, sir. Welcome back.
Hello, good to be
What's
back.
going on? I'm happy that this worked out. I
Yes,
mean, what's that make it work and
I
that
know we've been trying for a little bit. Yeah, sorry about last time.
that's dude, by the way, I don't think I had it in me to do I did two episodes that day and it was 2 hours each and I was so exhausted and so tired. And that morning I took Shua to school because Rachel was working. So I got up with him and I had to run to shul to get my stuff before he woke up so I could dive and take him to school, give him breakfast, not in that order, and and then get started for the day. Um, so by the time you told me like it wasn't a great night, I was quite relieved and I was seriously contemplating pushing it off anyway.
Yeah, no, we had a clogged sink that it took a plumber coming. Three different plumbers came 3 days in a row,
That seems a little crazy.
and it
What does
took
that mean?
until
Why
it.
how would that happen?
We just had a clog in our sink, and it took until the third plumber came for them to think to just like pour hot water down the drain, and that was what did it.
Really? What was it? Was it something that was just lodged there that hot water got off? Why
I
didn't
think it
anything else
was
work?
like, according to him, it may have been like grease that like froze maybe because it was too close to the outside. And
Ah,
last week was so
yes.
cold here,
Philly
so
problems.
yeah, not Florida problems. I can tell you that much.
Yes.
Although I did hear that you guys had quite the cold spell over there. So
We did. It was very pleasant until you realize how ill-equipped you are for anything below 60 degrees. And when it got down into the 40s, it was downright uncomfortable because I think that it's has a lot more to do with the change of the intensity of the change of temperature rather than actually what the degree what how many degrees it is. So like during the days it's 75 degrees. If at night it goes down to 40 or 45, like it's freaking freezing. Like it's 35-degree difference. It's just a huge change. And we didn't have it. And we tried turning on our heater, and the whole house started smelling like smoke. And we're like, I have no idea what this means, but but we're not gonna mess around with this. It probably hasn't been used in 30 years.
it's funny because we got down to like the single digits and real feel of like zero. So it's 40 right now, and we're like celebrating the fact that it's 40
Yeah,
now because
right.
we've been
And you're probably wearing a t-shirt.
not quite that, but definitely am happy that it's in the 40s.
Yeah, yeah. So what's happening? What's new? What's happening with your life, dude? It's been a little while since you caught up.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most exciting things is I've gotten back into writing consistently, at least so far. We'll see if
Hmm.
I keep up, but
How
so
long have you been
far,
doing that for?
it's been at least a month at this
Oh,
point. It
nice.
was
So that's like
like,
a routine already, dude.
yeah, it was like winter break because the best perk of my job, I work at University of Pennsylvania, and the best perk is we get off from Christmas Eve through New Year's. So I took that as an opportunity to create some good habits writing, and I've been keeping up so far. I have missed a couple of days, especially Fridays with like early Shabbos, and
Yeah.
there are a couple of days where I've missed, but for the most part, I've been hitting somewhere between 500 to 1,000 words a day, which I'm happy to take.
That's really awesome, dude. 500 words a day is about a page, right?
500 is about a page and a half, but I've been doing closer to 1,000 most days, but I try to do minimum of 500 on every day except for Friday.
But once you get to 500, you got to be. I feel like the first couple of hundred are the tougher parts anyway. Then you're kind of that flow and you keep on going. You know,
Yeah, I
like I
I
just
feel
like
like
at that
it.
point you're like your writing mode is like clicked on. You know.
Yeah, and it really depends also on like just which part of the book I'm up to, because part of it I have like such clear ideas, especially like this isn't my first go around trying to write this. So like there are some things that I'm just like, I know exactly what I'm writing, and then some parts where I'm just like, what is going on the page over here?
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, I've been I have so we were texting about this a little bit, but my writing feels rusty and feels clunky, you know? And I've been actually I've been trying to use my Twitter account as like a all-inclusive profile page for podcasts, for playing music, for kind of funny little thoughts,
Yeah,
reposts, and then also now some poetry. And I mean, it's really crazy how strongly associative my brain is because I watched the Bob Dylan movie and like that immediately got me into like back into a writing mode for like a week,
you must have
and
loved that. Did you like the
uh,
movie?
dude, I loved it. I thought it was spectacular. It was such a great movie.
You were their
Uh,
target audience right there.
I was the yeah, that's right, that's right. It's funny because I was actually thinking, I was talking to my friend Kibi about this, but like, we kind of look back at that whole, era, that whole point in time very nostalgically. Like the Lower East Side where, you had all these different cafes and, bars and nightclubs where people would perform. And like, like you hear like these great names like Springsteen and Dylan and Van Morrison and the Mamas and the Papas and everyone's rolling through and everyone's playing music together and like you're like it sounds so cool. Like these things are like this like the '60s like hippie community was like kind of gross, Like these places are like run down, falling apart shacks. Like people couldn't fit in these rooms. The guests were the guests were known to be wild and weird, and like I don't know that I would have like necessarily hung out there if I was living there at the time. Like I don't know. I was thinking about that while I was watching the movie because apparently they recreated a two block set from what the old school lower east I guess lower east side was,
Yeah.
or the East Village where where Dylan would hang out a lot. But the girl that played Joni Mitchell was not Joni Mitchell, Joan Baez was also remarkable. She was awesome. So overall, I was super happy. I'm pretty sure he played Mr. Tambourine Man at some point in the movie, which I guess is all I really needed to hear, and I was happy about
I've got a question for you. What is Mr. Tambourine Man about?
I don't know. I don't know actually at all. I actually at one point I was showing the song to my students, and then one of my students had a potential like explanation that I literally never thought of, and my mind was blown. But I can't remember now what it was. Uh, um, but what catches me about this song is that there's such colorful imagery that
Oh,
the poetry like the lyrics are make the music come alive. Um, you know, in particular, the last verse, I love it. Take me disappearing through the smoke rings of my mind, which I already just like imagine like an Alice in Wonderland kind of thing, down the foggy ruins of time, way past the frozen leaves, the haunted, frightened trees. And you imagine like like a dark, misty path, and like these old, gnarled up trees with their roots all old and withered, and far past the twisted reach of crazy sorrows. And like you imagine someone like kind of like pushing their way through like almost remember the scene in Lion King where Simba's running chasing Rafiki, and he runs through that whole forest when he's trying to find Mufasa.
of course we come back to a Lion King reference. Yeah.
Yes, of course. And so that's what I imagine. And then you break through it, and then to dance beneath the diamond sky with one hand waving free, silhouetted by the sea. Like it's such great poetry, and it's so smooth and it's so beautiful, and it conjures up such vivid images in my head that I can't tell you what it's about, but I could tell you like that I live that like I live the words. I experience the words very colorfully.
I will not argue that it is beautiful writing. Definitely something I wish I could. Some things you just like read or listen to, and you're like, "Wow, I wish I created that." And that's definitely one of those songs. I feel like.
Yeah, yeah. It's you know what it is? It's letting yourself get into a flow. He doesn't really follow any kind of conventional rules of any kind of conventional storytelling, you know, like he just kind of throws things from everywhere all over the place. One of the things that they actually showed in the movie was like the way that he used to write was he used to have, and this was, you know, I read this about him, you know, years ago,
Yeah.
but that he used to just take books and books that he was reading and newspaper clippings and just, you know, whatever was going on that day and like throw everything together and just come up with like a blend of narratives, you know, and just stick them all under one song. He, I think there's a song called Desolation Row that you could look up after, um, and it's a long song. It's like 10, 11 minutes, and it's all words. I don't know how anyone like, you know, remembers it to play it, but in that song, he goes through like 10, 15 different, you know, I guess classical mythological characters, and like and then he weaves one common narrative between all their stories. So you know, a huge part of his writing was the exercise of not of like letting your associations just roll freely and not worry about, you know, typical barriers or borders that would have prevented you from sticking two ideas or characters or principles together, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely don't see too much writing like that in songs nowadays.
Well, it's hard to do. I mean, you know, because like if you're trying, it's hard enough to come up with writing when you have an agenda of something you want to write about, and then it's hard enough to be creative with your writing as a separate skill, you know, and like it's kind of doing both, you know, it's taking, you know, a concept again that's going to shoot through multiple narratives or ideas, and then just building this wild, wacky circus, you know, this circus of words that just, you know, you wouldn't even think belong with one another, but they kind of just flow and work. And that's why, like, I can never, listening to Dylan songs are always more satisfying than trying to explain what they're like to someone else, you know, because I'm like if you don't hear the phrases just rolling off his tongue and just, you know, just, you know, I mean, and then he'll jam hundreds of words into a 4 or 5 minute song. You're like, there's so many things he's saying and he's remembering everything. I don't know how he does it. It's crazy. He's awesome.
Honestly, I feel like that would be a great like writing exercise. Write a story like a Bob Dylan song.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, that's what I'll do that quite a bit, but I'll play a couple of his songs from different albums, and I'll play a couple of songs from different albums and kind of take his you could get yourself in someone else's, I think, state of mind you know, point of view, if you listen to them enough. You know, I tend like if I listen to I could tell if we pulled up some writing, you know, from just random points in my life, I could probably tell you if I was inspired by someone that I was listening to at the moment, you know, based on the style that I'm writing. The Springsteen stuff is tends to be dark and focus on roads and highways and cars and leaving fears behind and stuff like that. And Dylan stuff tends to be a little bit more political or a little bit more wacky in terms of just like some kind of weird fairy tale. And you know, it's cool. You know, the Van Morrison stuff tends to be very spiritual, very use a lot of words like mystical, gypsy, ether, spirits, you know, all that kind of stuff. And each and you know, and like because our I guess our brains are so associative, they just take us down totally different paths while you know that while we're writing that you know that you wouldn't have gone past if you weren't primed to or prepared to you know to go down the mystic route or the political route or the emotional route or whatever it is.
Yeah, I do something similar sometimes, and I've wanted to do this a little more. There's one author that I love a lot, Patrick Rothfuss,
Okay, I never heard of him.
whose writing I think is, for at least fantasy, the best writing I've ever read. He wrote my favorite book of all time, The Name of the Wind. He's taken his sweet time coming out with the third one, but
Well, as long as he's doing it well, right? How long has it been?
Probably about 20 years or so. Um,
Really?
Probably. I honestly don't even know when the when the last book came out. But the
That's
craziest
crazy.
part is he wrote them all, like it's a trilogy, or was supposed to be a trilogy, and he wrote all of them in one go. Like his first draft was like the whole trilogy,
No way.
but now it's been like so many years between the second and third book.
But he wrote them. Oh, is he just not releasing them? He already has it. He
No,
already
I
has
think
it
he's
written.
just switching it up so much that
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel bad
Uh,
because his fans are not nice to him, but also I would like the last book. But anyway, he wrote my favorite book of all time, The Name of the Wind, which is the most beautifully written fantasy book. It's the most perfect book that I've ever read.
really?
It
Why?
is
What about it?
I like I'm very big on like I'm annoying with books and I can point out all their flaws, but for Name of the Wind, it's just like
It's flawless.
the yeah, the second book in the series is far from flawless. The first book is perfect.
Really? What about it? Is it the writing? Is it the characters? Is it the imagery? What is it?
I mean, that's the thing. It's everything. Like he executes everything perfectly. The
How does that
characters are.
happen? How does someone experience that?
mm, I don't know.
How does
I
someone
guess
do that? How does
that's.
someone come up with an entire trilogy worth of material in one go and then publish it and then and then it's just this like perfect form of writing?
I don't know, but like the writing itself, like I said, is beautiful. The characters are great. The dialogue is like very well done, very realistic. The plot is engaging. There's a lot of nuggets of wisdom in there.
That's
It just
awesome.
it's one of those books that just hits on all cylinders, and
Would you
I am a
consider
tough critic.
that's awesome. Would you consider Calvin Hobbes a perfect work?
I mean I've obviously read Calvin and Hobbes, but I have not read enough to make any claim
I think
about
that
that.
you should revisit it because what's fun is the different layers of sophistication that occur all at the same time. You know, there's goofy comedy, there's social satire, there's there's nostalgia, there's depth in terms of family and relationships. There's there's just so much happening at once, and it feels like he has his finger exactly on the pulse of like what like every aspect of life is about, and he captures it so just so wonderfully. It's worth revisiting, and it's funny because like when I was growing up, I used to read it. I'd sit there crying from laughter from from the comic expressiveness. Like
Yeah.
when I would look at a comic and when his eyes would pop up as an exaggeration when he's caught telling a lie or something like that. Like I'd find my brain would fill in like the rest of what was happening, and I would just find it so funny. I feel like I was like living these stories, and and then and then as I got older, I started laughing at the concepts, and the back and forth, and the witty, and like, and then there were still things I didn't get, and now like I guess I've been more, um, I guess I've been more, I've been following politics more. I'm understanding even more of it, and so like just this past weekend, even I was here with Sam Chosak. He came to visit me for the weekend. I hadn't seen him since my bachelor party, actually. So I hadn't seen him. The last time
Whoa,
I saw him was the last time at
that's
USAC.
crazy.
Yeah, the three of us were together.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's crazy. He decided to come to my bachelor party and not my wedding because he was like, "I'm not gonna be able to really hang out with you at your wedding," and
I have a vague recollection of that.
so funny. And I was like, this is such a logical position to come to, but it's also such a strange like actual call to make.
He's not wrong, but
He's
yeah,
not wrong,
definitely.
and he was completely correct. And I don't think he even regretted it. He's like, why would I? He goes, if I have an opportunity to see you for at most, like to maybe get like hey, congratulations in, Mazel Tov in.
That
He's
you're
like, that's the
probably
most
not
we're
gonna so
getting.
much remember even.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I remember a lot. I remember a ton about my wedding, but I don't remember. I don't remember the whole first dance. That whole thing is just a just I browned out. I mean, I have no recollection of it.
The main
But
thing I remember is the guy rolling like cigars or something like that.
we and the guys dressed like the Big Lebowski. That was funny. Or my brothers that did the Mary Poppins penguins dance. It was very cute. That was wild.
There were many highlights, but I will not forget the person rolling cigars out.
Yeah, yeah. I tried to keep those cigars for too long. I kept them for like months after the wedding, and I
The
tried
cigars go
smoking.
bad?
Uh, yeah,
Yeah,
especially ones that are being rolled like that. Like, I think there are things you can do to preserve it and to keep them lasting longer. And one of the things is actually packaging and sealing it and keeping it,
yeah.
in a room that's or I guess with appropriate temperature. And they didn't do any of that. They just were rolling them and giving them out. So like like there's a timeline that was just started the second that he rolled the cigar, and there was like maybe 3 or 4 days that you had to smoke it, and otherwise we had to toss a bunch of them. But
Well,
it
you
was
smoked
fun.
all of them in 3 to 4 days.
Yeah, yeah, me too, me too. Today I tried smoking two cigars, and I smoked one cigar, and I was gonna start another, and I took like two puffs, and just the notion of another stick of tobacco made me almost vomit. I was like, maybe I won't do this. I won't do this now. So I passed on it.
Yeah, that will definitely never be something for me. I
What,
hate like
smoking?
even when like my kitchen gets smoky because I'm like making too much fried food or something gets burnt or something. I hate it.
Right.
I hate inhaling smoke.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually like it. And I hate that I like it. and and I do it more than I do it because I like the activity of smoking more than I actually care for it either. And I think it gives me something to do. Like I was smoking like I kind of smoke when I'm more inclined to smoke when I'm feeling restless or I feel like I need something to do with myself. So um like during the day if I'm working when I'm working from home, if it's nice outside, like I'll sit outside. I'll either drink a ton of coffee if I'm sitting at home or I'll smoke a cigar outside. I just need to be like doing something with myself, and like I'm too restless just sitting by a computer all day. I'm sure coffee makes it worse, but um
It
yeah,
definitely
it's
won't help, but coffee's another thing that I just coffee's a thing that I wish my body like could handle better, but my body does not handle caffeine well.
what do? You get tense or anxious?
No, just my stomach cannot handle it.
Um,
I will
yeah,
be in
but
the
people like it because of
bathroom
that.
all day.
People. Oh well, not the all day part. But people like a
Well, not
morning.
actually all day, but definitely for like
People use it as a laxative for sure, dude. They
yeah, no.
definitely.
So that I do not need a laxative. I'll put
Yeah,
it
yeah.
kindly. I do
But
not like that.
right. Did you end up going to Panama?
We're going in mid-March.
Oh, why do I think you were going? Why do I think you were going now?
I mean, it's not too
Or that
far
you went
away.
already?
Have you
What
been?
do you, no, you know what? I wanted to. My wife wanted to
It's
go.
too mainstream for you probably at this
It's too mainstream at
point.
this point. I know. I must have heard that 50 people that I know went to Panama this winter. But South Florida was a lot less packed than it usually is, which is really interesting. Um, but yeah, I mean, we have a bunch of couple friends that went, and they all loved it.
Yeah, you're
Um,
close to
yeah, it's
Panama.
because
Tickets are
yeah,
probably nothing for you.
yeah, it's an easy trip. I think it's two. I think it's a 2.5 hour flight,
Yeah,
and
that's like how long
and
it is for me to fly to Florida.
yeah. So what's it? 5 hours for you to Panama? 6 hours?
I think it may be like 4.5, something like that.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense. Maybe it's yeah. Well, anyway, but the only thing that everyone says about it is that they have great restaurants, and then you go to the Panama Canal, now to be called the
Yeah,
American Canal.
I don't know what you call it.
It's the American Canal. At
I'm
least
just gonna call it a canal.
you kind of call it one of the wonders of the world. It's one of the
Yeah,
wonders, right?
I don't. I very much don't think it's one of the wonders.
I think it is.
It is. That would be very sad.
Look it
Compared,
up.
right, to
Why?
like the pyramids of Giza. I don't know.
Oh, well, no, because I don't think the pyramids are. I think there are
They're
natural
like the
wonders.
old ones and the new ones. They're no, they're like two sets of seven.
There's natural wonders and there's man-made wonders. So, like the Great Wall of China, I think, is the same
Great Wall of
category
China is definitely one.
as a Pyramid of Giza at Giza. And if you go to Soaring in Epcot, then you can see all these in person.
Been to Soarin' at Epcot recently, so
Really? When?
so, I mean, not too recently, but about I think it was 2 years
It was
ago.
last year then, or 2 years ago? That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it was since the Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster
Oh
opened up. I
man,
can tell
did
you
you
that
do
much
it?
because
I
we
thought
went
it
on
was
them.
great. I thought it was
I
great.
I am really not a roller coaster person, but I've been forcing myself to go on roller coasters lately, and
Yeah.
I did go on it. It was a
It
roller
def
coaster, I could tell
it
you that
definitely leaves you
much.
nauseated, right? But
I,
what I kind of liked about it is how much slicker of like if you went on like Space Mountain or Thunder Railroad or whatever it was, then it kind of like jerks you around and it's all rattly and you're on that weird track, that the metallic track that like you kind of bump around. This kind of the Guardians ride just kind of felt smoother. Like even though I got nauseous, it didn't feel like I was bouncing around and gonna fall off a track or anything like that. You know?
it was definitely smooth, but I can tell you, like, I don't even remember what bad guy they were fighting against for the actual plot of the ride, but by the end
Yeah,
of it, like, I couldn't pay attention to the plot of it at all while it was going on. I think my eyes were
really
probably like
watering.
glued shut. No,
I did.
probably shut. So I was like, did we beat the bad guy at the end? I was like, what just
I did.
I have
I
no
did
idea what
Tron.
happened.
Did you do Tron?
I don't think so.
Tron's in Magic Kingdom. And
No, we were only in Epcot.
by the way, it's a better move anyway. If you're only going to go to one park for one day,
Yeah.
um, I would definitely go to Epcot. Did you do the what do you call it ride? The your favorite movie Ratatouille ride?
We did do the Ratatouille ride. That I think had
What?
the longest line out of all of the rides that's that, other than Guardians.
Yeah, yeah, it always does. That and Frozen usually have the longest lines.
We did Frozen also. Yeah.
Wow, really? Seamus been online for all day, dude.
We did pretty well with the Park Hopper Pass.
Oh, that's what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a little upset that they what do you call it? I'm a little upset that they never that they started charging for it, the fast passes.
I don't mind for it as long as my parents pay.
Yeah,
No, but
I
I
know,
know
but
what
you
you
know what
mean. I know what you
they
mean.
raised the only reason why well, it's not the only reason. One of the reasons why it bothers me is because tickets are already more expensive. They're like 15-20% more expensive in the last couple of years. And
Yeah.
they're up like 30-40% over the last like 10-15 years, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
And and families and like it's supposed to be like an American experience, but like less and less families are able to go. And then like they scrape together this money and it's 30% more expensive if they want to go back than if they went 10-12 years ago. And then you get there and you have to pay like for like the nickel and dime you. It it almost feels like it's like that frontier experience, where like you pay to just get on the plane, like anything else extra is like, yeah, I'm gonna charge you for that. Like
I mean,
more and more
I
companies are
know it
doing
with
that.
Spirit more than anything, but yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually funny. It happens with ultrasounds too. There's an ultrasound company where the Mindray, where they make the cheapest brand new ultrasounds, but like they're the most basic box. Like they could just do a scan, and if you want to do anything else, if you want to do different exam types, if you want to make it speak to computer, if you want to make it, just do like different compatible with different probes. Each one is like a separate tag along, so you could buy the machine for 7 grand but they're brand new. But by the time you actually get everything you want to use the machine for, you probably end up paying closer to like 13 or 14, and like it
I,
literally goes up twice on now just because of that.
I think that's the norm for almost everything nowadays. I feel like you always need to get the add-on.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. What do you think of Amazon's move when they did with Prime, where they automatically turned everyone that was a Prime member into an ad tier, and then they said you have to pay. Prime Video was free until then. They said you're gonna have to pay if you want ad free, but if you don't, but if you're not gonna pay, then we're giving you ads.
honestly didn't know that because I feel like Prime Video is one of the worst ones. I don't watch too many shows on Prime Video.
I don't really know what they're trying to. I don't know what they try to accomplish. I know that they get people to view them, and because they have like football rights and other
Yeah,
sports.
football is the only thing that I would use Prime Video for, and that I could go on a whole rant about. I hate how football
Oh,
has
do
been
you?
turned stream. I hate it.
Okay, tell me more. What about it?
It's spread across so many different streaming services, Netflix now and Prime. Like, like if
Yeah,
you're a
it's
football
crazy.
fan and you want to watch your football team, you should be able to just watch your football team. You shouldn't
Yeah,
have
I
to
know.
have like 17,000 different subscriptions. Like,
By the way, it's kind
I
of why I gave
mean,
up on following sports in general because I can't keep up with all of it. The only thing that I've been
yeah,
keeping up with is UFC, and I have to pay for that stupid thing anyway. You know,
football as
is
hard
all
as
the,
it is, like being outside of New York, so that like every game basically is at a market. But now, like, you have to find out if it's on Prime or it's on Peacock or it's on Netflix. It's like
yeah.
impossible to watch every game of the season at this point.
There were a bunch of different attempts from different studios to make like a sports app or like all sports site, pretty much with like the main sports. Matt Bellamy from The Town talks about it a lot. But they were gonna also price it outrageously. It was gonna be like I think 80. I think the plan was either between 70 and $85 um per I guess account to watch sports. But that's pretty much like assuming that you have another streaming service, which almost everyone does. At the end of the day, like at that point, you may as well get cable. Like at that point, you may as well do YouTube TV. Like
It's
like
funny
it
because
doesn't
I'm
make any
wondering what the
sense.
point of cable is at this point. Like, I used to say cable was like for sports because it wasn't on streaming, but now
Yeah, but now
like
it is right,
it
exactly.
makes
So
sense to not have cable and to just
the
have
fact
50
that
million
right,
different streaming services.
that's what it is, right? So the one of it's so funny. The last nail in the coffin for cable would have been streaming hypothetically, right? But because streaming has done such a poor job acclimate, like transitioning from, from all being in one place to being over different studios, and not one studio is winning the rights to different sports or, all different, types of teams,
Yeah.
all different games. Um, then that actually has kept cable around for longer because more people are like, screw this. If I could watch it on cable, then I'll watch it on cable. Or if I could log into the ESPN app through my cable account, it doesn't make a difference which one which service I'm using. Like you don't
Well,
pay
I
for the
feel like
service
that
for
was part of the beauty of cable was that like you buy Optimum or whatever it is, Verizon Fios, and then you have every show that you could
yeah.
want.
But I would, yeah, but you know what? I don't think that I would be willing to pay more than 30, 40, 30, more than $30 a month for a full sports package. I know that a lot of people would pay, but $30 a month is a lot of money. $50 or 60 or $80 a month, which is what they wanted to do. That's a lot of money for a regular household. Like $80 bill, monthly bill on top of everyday expenses is just crazy. You know,
But it
You're
used to be on the major networks.
Right, exactly. Or it was part of the cable bundle that you were
Yeah.
paying for with Wi-Fi and your phone. And by the time you you figure that you get everything together, you consider that all just one lump payment as part of like utilities. But now there's like a separate. This is extra surcharge. I mean, on top of gas and insurance and and electric and your Netflix account and your phone service and your Wi-Fi service. Now you got to pay an extra $80 a month to watch NFL. It just feels silly. But the problem is, I don't know what else
Netflix
to do.
alone is Netflix is quite pricey now.
Netflix paid $75 million per game on Christmas Day. So they paid $150 for the two games, and I think they were bad games, right?
I don't even remember who was playing because I didn't watch it. We don't have access to Netflix right now.
No way, really?
Yeah, at least for
Your Netflix
the
list?
time being. And it's too bad because I just started Stranger Things and now
Well, yeah, I don't love Stranger Things anyway.
no.
No, right now my favorite my favorite app at the moment is Hulu. because I got the Hulu, Disney, and HBO pass. It's those three for $30 a month, and independently, I was paying I think closer to 40 or 45. But if you got them as a
Those are good
bundle,
ones.
that was
I'd say
awesome.
Hulu is not necessarily my favorite. I think Max is my
Yeah,
number one right now.
but when you put Hulu and Max together and you put their
Yeah.
libraries together, like this, like I could be on the Hulu app for the rest of my life and like never run out of content. There's so
Well,
much
especially
good.
all you need is Disney and you'll be
I
set
mean,
for
forget about.
most of your life.
I haven't watched any Disney on my Hulu app. I go to my Disney app to do that, which is funny. I got to associate it, but what they really, and that's actually full circle. What people like Amazon Prime for is that Prime allows you to subscribe to all those services, but under one app. So instead of like, so if I could get access to, so if I go to Prime, I get access to the Peacock library, the Paramount Plus library, and the HBO library, and they could all those libraries could be on one app. So it's almost like a customized marketplace. And then Amazon takes I think the customer information, which is what the valuable stuff is for ads. So and then I think the most of the money goes to the other services. Most of the money goes to HBO, HBO or Peacock or Paramount, whoever you're subscribing with. But I think but the really valuable stuff, Amazon's collecting.
Right. Well, HBO
That,
is most of what I watch nowadays. I'm watching The Wire right now.
oh yeah, did Zach Alexander tell you about it? Because he just finished it.
No, I didn't know that he watched it. I'll have to text him and ask him.
Yeah,
I'm in season
he
4
just
right
finished
now,
it.
which I'm told is the best season. It's great.
It's a great
I
show,
love it.
right? I
Yeah.
only watched a season, um,
The
but
writing is fantastic.
I know the guy's an investigative journalist. The creator's an investigative journalist. Uh,
I was wondering who the writers were because they definitely like have a lot of intricate knowledge of the day to day of police
yeah,
work. So they
yeah.
definitely did their
So
research and
he,
did it well.
so
It
he,
feels
yeah,
very
he's amazing.
real.
It's a
Yeah,
lot of it's based on real stories, and a lot of it is based on real corruption. And he
interesting.
he was supposed to just be the creator of the show, I believe. Like he came with the concept, and and then they told him to write it, and he's like, I've never written a script before, I don't know, I wouldn't know what to
Yeah.
do. And they're like, well, try it out. And so yeah, and he did, and then he did another show called The Deuce, which is about actually, it's really classic HBO, not appropriate. I didn't watch the whole show, but
I
it's
mean,
about
The
the
Wire is pretty much like that too. I tried to watch it at the gym and I had to pause it in the middle and shut it off and switch to something else while I was on the treadmill.
yeah, so funny. No, what do you call it? The Deuce is about the porn industry in 1970s in New York, and and what like and the center of it was in Times Square. And and again, he did primarily a lot of investigative journalism, and then decided to come up with that, and then came up with the script. But yeah, I mean, that guy, that they for a long time, HBO was was the ultimate place for talent to go because anyone knew that they could just do whatever they wanted. It was essentially, it was the only unfiltered network.
Yeah.
And you could actually tell, like, I've been watching a lot of FX shows recently. I'm not as crazy about them. Like, they definitely feel like a drop off in the quality relative to like HBO, like The Sopranos or The Wire or Entourage. Even The Penguin, I thought was like really incredible. Um, and and the FX shows just feel like they get close and you could see that like they're trying to be there, but they just don't push the envelope, and they're just not raw and blunt and
That's the
blatant.
biggest thing. Raw is the biggest word I would do for The Wire. And that's what I think is the most compelling thing to me about the show, is how raw it feels. Like
Yeah,
the criminals don't feel like paper cutouts that are like someone is holding back like they feel like real
Yeah, of course. You
people.
can't like what always pops in my head when you describe when I'm thinking about those kind of characters is Ant-Man in Endgame, where he's like, you didn't know they're bad guys? They look like bad guys, like
Yeah,
you could tell in the movie who's the bad guy. But they do a good job like keeping them as like they make them real humans. They're not just stereotypical bad guys.
yeah. One of my friends was saying, and I agree, that like you want to root for people like McNulty, but then you're like, he's a terrible person. Like, there's nobody you could look at and be like, there are very few that you could be look at and be like, oh, that's a great person. It's like even the supposed good guys are all like
I
extremely flawed in like ways that you cannot say that they're like good people. Most of them are not.
Yeah, yeah. It's really interesting. It's also interesting to think about whether we would consider other people like that if we spent as much time with them as what you spend with, a character over the course of X amount of seasons. You know? Like, and like in those kind of raw and intimate moments that we're not really privy to anyway. And so like they're really like I don't know many people that would really stand up to the test of being a great person at all times in all these opportunities and moments over the course of let's say 5 years that someone's living in all moments. We're all pretty flawed like that. And you're like, dude, get your shit together. And you're like, yeah, but no one knows about that, so it's okay. But as the follower of the show that it's happening.
I
So like,
agree, but I also think it's like the time period partly for me because like McNulty, I remember when I was watching the first season, I was like, he is like completely lost, like drunk out of his mind and getting in a car. Like that's not. I would definitely judge anyone for that. And he drives super drunk multiple. There's like one scene that I remember cringing every second at where he's just like driving drunk and just banging into thing after thing and completely like totaling his car and he still just like keeps driving. Not to mention that
yeah,
he has sex with like any woman that breathes for one season, but
who McNulty?
yeah.
He wasn't like that in season one or beginning of
No,
season
no,
two,
no.
I guess.
In season two, he was in season two, right after the scene where he like bangs his car up. He goes to a diner. His hand is bleeding, and he has sex with the waitress at the diner with his hand like gushing blood the entire time.
Ew. It's so preposterous and so
So,
HBO.
so it's definitely like people that I think I would argue I would look at them and be like, no, that's definitely not someone I would consider a role model, but he's the main character of the show.
I think that's what's fun too. They take the notion that that the main character has to be a saint, and they throw that out the window. Um, and it's really been since their that's been their kind of model since they started making successful shows. Was always to have was always to have a morally ambiguous character that was relatable enough that you still understood and rooted for them, but you didn't necessarily approve of all their actions, but you got where they're coming from enough. It's a really difficult art. I mean, I'm always in awe of you know film creators that or directors that tell you whole stories by just directing body language and camera shots and how much they could communicate so subtly um without any kind of without any kind of words. And I feel like that's such a beautiful art, and I feel it's so like beyond me, Like I would love to kind of like you could do that with writing too, like the unsaid thing, and
Yeah,
just the whole audience that's reading it understands it, and and like it's like it's a little like inside joke between the author and the reader that's never said, but everyone gets it. It's really cool.
yeah. And I gotta say, I'm also impressed with just like it's hard to carry a story with like characters that are not 100% likable. Like you gotta make them good enough that you want to follow them and that you're like somewhat rooting for them, but also like towing the line and making them very, very flawed. That's like a very hard line to walk.
I'm watching a very cool FX show that just came, I didn't just I just started it, but it's called I think Snowfall, and the premise is that I mean it's basically the cocaine scene in 1980s LA, and there's like three or four different narratives. The first one is of a CIA agent and a Cuban, I guess, rebel, right, who was fighting against the government in the 80s, and the CIA was arming and aiding them and training them how to
Classic.
overthrow the government. Yeah, of course, right. And part of the way that part of the way that they would do that, and they would fund the operations, was selling coke from Cuba. So and it's actually crazy because I mean, there's a ton of this in Miami in the '80s. My dad and grandfather, my dad's whole family and my grandparents grew up then, and the rabbi of his shul said that they actually forget about, not that you're not allowed, but you should be carrying a gun to shul and back because it was so dangerous in the streets, even just to go a couple of blocks. He was like, you should absolutely
We're
be
about
carrying.
to say the rabbi was selling coke.
No, that'd be crazy. That'd be fun, but no. So you have the CIA guy and and the Cuban guy that are selling coke, and they're selling coke to an Israeli rich, ex Mossad guy, and then the ex Mossad guy is selling it to this black kid that's from the projects and trying to get out and trying to get ahead, and nothing says get ahead like selling coke. So it keeps on going, and then so it keeps on going back and forth just between all these narratives, and they do a really. This is one of the better. This is one of the better FX shows I've seen so far. And I mean, do you watch Sons of Anarchy, or have you heard about that?
I mean, I've definitely seen their commercials, but I've not seen the show.
It's a motorcycle gang. It's an FX show about a motorcycle gang, and I mean, the problem is, I think that every show has an ideal. Like they have a window that they could be good for, and then after that it's really hard to keep a show good. I think like 4 or 5 seasons is probably the perfect amount of time that you can really keep a show going well, and anything that goes more, there's usually a season or two or more that kind of end up falling, dropping in quality.
Yeah.
um except for House. Every season of House was perfect. And and I love Hugh Laurie. But yeah, so Sons of Anarchy really lost. I mean, it was just the same thing for too long, so I kind of stopped. But so far, this is holding up to hopefully be HBO level content. We'll we'll see.
Do you
Um,
watch Severance?
you know what? I just caught up in the last week. I freaking
So
love
good.
that show,
It,
dude.
it's like the best modern show
This
of
might
like the
be
last
the
like
best main. Yeah,
10, 20 years. It's like
I'm so curious. You know what I love to know? I love to know the stories behind this. Like, how did Apple have to fight to get the rights to this to Severance? Did they like want it? Did they think it was gonna be worth it? Like, like I want to know what happened. I want to know how long it took for them to make the show. I love that kind of stuff. But I think,
I'm sure that information somewhere out there.
yeah, I know I got to interview the people. That's actually what
It's
I,
so interesting that Ben Stiller is the one who
yeah, isn't that
who
crazy?
directed it. Yeah.
I'm so impressed. But I there's a directing and then there's the editing. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not saying I don't know because I'm saying I don't think this is the case. I genuinely don't know. I don't know how much the director has to do with the editing and like the the whole setting, the whole room. And I love the settings in the app in Severance. I love the hallways and and the bright white clean, spotless
Yeah.
areas, and like I just like they just get it. It creates a whole world. And also what the show does so well, and that's how you know it's a great show. It takes a comedic actor and makes him immediately believable as a very serious guy. And we have to, and there's an enormous amount that our brain has to overcome to not associate him as a comedic actor. What's the guy's name? The main character?
I'm terrible with actor names.
Adam something, I think.
I think Adam is right.
Adam
Yeah.
something. I'm sorry, Adam, whatever it is.
I
You're awesome. You're awesome, but I'm sorry. And
he needs to get a haircut by the end of the series though.
he does need to get a
That's my
haircut,
main arc for him is him
but
getting a
the
haircut.
studio should get an enormous amount of credit for immediately turning him into like the serious actor for one of the best shows of all time.
Yeah.
Of our time.
I'm just waiting to put that official title because it's one of those shows where you're like, it's so good, but I have to see the end first to like see
Yeah,
how it plays out because I could see it fizzling very easily, but I really hope it doesn't. But
yeah. So you know why I don't think they will? I don't think they'll fizzle because it seems. Excuse me. It's oh my gosh. It seems like they really thought through the concepts really well. Like let's say like let's say I come to you and I'm like, hey man, let's write a show about what happens if you don't remember what work is like while you're working, and then you don't remember what life is like when you're not working. Vice versa. And you're like, yeah, that sounds like a cool idea, right? I would never ever like the repercussions of like what would actually happen if that really happened. I would never think it through as well as they have. Like the whole notions of innies and outies was so brilliant to me, and like the whole notion that like decisions they make on the outside and things they do on the outside could affect who is essentially a different life, and to start looking at themselves like different lives. Like I
yeah,
wouldn't have thought that through enough. So I'm giving them the credit, and I'm really
no,
hoping
it's
that
genius. It is
the only
genius.
thing so what's most likely, if it gets ruined, the most likely cause of it falling apart would be that it does so well that they rush making the next seasons and compromise on the quality of the storyline um instead.
The biggest flaw from what I see normally, and I do agree, I think that they have an ending in mind. So I hope that this flaw doesn't come to fruition for them, but is like not having a clear enough ending, and then you realize that you built up all these promises that you can't keep. So as long as they can keep delivering on promises, that's the
You
biggest
mean for
thing
the
for me.
characters?
And for like the questions, like if you find out that like all of this is like some weird thing that you couldn't have predicted based on everything that was going on, and it's like an outlandish thing and it gets too big for itself. Like there was a show that I used to watch that I loved the first season called Revolution, and it was like a similar thing, not as smart, but still it had a lot of cliffhangers, a lot of questions, a lot of like, oh, what's going on? And it did not deliver because it turned like all these questions into like ridiculous magical stuff, and it didn't get renewed after like two seasons or something. But it built up all these questions and did not give satisfying answers. So
Yeah. Yeah, and when a story is also really, really well done, when it gives you an answer that upsets the audience but is still thought out. Like um like you get the audience cheering for something to happen, and then but taking that away from the audience because it has to be consistent with the storyline, you know? Um for example, the example I'm thinking of is in The Sopranos. Like, The Sopranos, Tony Soprano's as a therapist.
no ruining. That's my next show probably.
Oh, you're gonna watch it? Okay, I'm
Oh,
not gonna
that's
tell you then.
hopefully my next show. If it's
Yeah.
not a spoiler, I can listen to it, but no spoiler.
Um. No, I don't want to tell it to you. It's not because I don't want to spoil it. It's because I want to. It's not. It doesn't spoil the show, but I don't want to spoil the moment for you. And you're gonna know exactly what it is. You're gonna text me that you're upset about it, and I'm going to be excited about the fact that you finally got there. Um,
Okay, so it's something that I should be upset about.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely gets upsetting. It's fun because it does a good job keeping you upset, you know. But anyway, I yeah, I don't have I think Severance was incredible. I hope that they already have an idea, and if they don't already have an idea how to keep on going and how many more seasons they want, whatever it is. Like I think that Apple, not Apple, but anyone, all these networks have to be principled enough to say that when a show is good and it's done and and even though it made an enormous amount of money, to just leave it alone and work on the next project,
Yeah,
instead of
they're afraid that the next project won't be as
yeah,
profitable.
of
That's why
course, but
they keep
forcing,
doing
but there's,
sequels and remakes and all that
but
stupidity that
it's
nobody likes.
right, yeah, yeah. So it's interesting. For example, right, if you have a Ted Lasso, where the last season was I think not great at all. Um,
Yeah, no,
Garbage.
I would say the second
Um,
season was like good but not great. The first season was like just incredible.
Incredible. The second
Second
season was
season was
good. It
good,
was
not
very good.
great.
Yeah. The
Maybe
third season
I
was
haven't seen it
bad.
in a while. Maybe it was better than good. Maybe I'm just doing it based on
But
the
it's
third
a
season.
so
But
but
the
the
third season was
consequences,
terrible.
right. So the
Comparatively, it was
consequences.
still fine, but yeah.
No, it was terrible. I didn't even think it was fine. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy watching it. It didn't keep me engaged at all. But the consequence of that for Apple TV is much more significant, I think, because people could opt to not see it and then they don't want to go on the streaming service and that's the only thing they're watching for anyway or whatever it is. But when, let's say, Disney makes The Lion King again, even if that movie is trash and even though, critics will destroy it, the movie will still make, it'll still bring in 500 million, $600 million into the studio. So
Yeah.
from their perspective, if you just need something to just keep on generating cash until you find your next big franchise and big studio hit, then you have to consistently just have those things that'll make you money. And that's more of like a business tactic than it is creative than a creative place, to like I
Yeah.
don't think they're expecting that Mufasa is going to be the best movie of all time, but they did expect that people would just pay or their kids would drag their parents to the movie theater to go see it anyway, and whether the parents wanted to see it or not, the movie theater's getting, I mean, the Disney's getting their 10, 12, $15 for the tickets, whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand the business incentive side, but I hate
For like Apple
unoriginal
TV, other than
things.
for Apple TV with Ted Lasso season 3, there was no reason for it to be so rushed and so bad, um, because there was nothing on the line. Like you don't get tangible returns like a box office from a streaming service, right? You might notice that there's more activity. You might be able to sell more ads for a little bit, but like you don't get a box office response. So you don't technically have to keep to any schedule on the streaming platform. And I blame the creative team for that for rush, or I guess for getting, or you could blame the corporates for rushing the creative team, but there would be no real reason to kind of rush it out there's no
Yeah.
business benefit, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, but I do appreciate that they like kept it at least to the three seasons, although I've heard maybe there's gonna be new seasons
I
now,
think
but
they wanted to
he was
continue the
very
Ted Lasso
insistent on
universe.
yeah. He was
But
very
he's not in
insistent
it.
on a three season. Okay, so that's good at least.
He's
But
not in it.
they
I
were
think
good
Jamie
at
Tartt's not
least
in
like
it.
keeping it to three seasons.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's going to be a continuation of that little world, but not including a lot of the main characters that were done with the project or that demanded far too much money. And also if once one person's not doing it, then no one wants to do it. And so the people that need it for their careers will do it because
Yeah.
it's good for their careers. But anyone that has any kind of career whatsoever and has any other options at all would probably be like, I'm not making another show without the main reason why everyone loved the show. It doesn't make any sense,
Yeah.
you
It's
know.
like the last season of The Office.
You know who took that chance and really worked out really well for? Frasier. dude. Frasier was based on a obscure character in Friends, you know, that was only in the show for like I think 4 or 5 seasons. And then someone just said, "What if we just took the character Frasier and like kept him in the Cheers universe and just had him move away from Boston and just have his own life, and we'll just keep up the Frasier character." And they did it, and it was. I mean, people can can make the case that it's even better than Cheers. Like I definitely like it more. So it's cool that that works out. That could work out like that. You know.
Interesting. I didn't know it about that. I'm trying to think. There's one other show that was like that. I'm not going to remember which one I'm thinking of. If you say it, I'd
Girl that
remember.
what's the
But
girl that keeps it Keely, the girl that Keely, who's the girl that keeps going back and forth between Jamie Tart and Roy Kent?
yeah, yeah, Keeley. Yeah,
Keely. So imagine there was a 3 season show revolving around Keely's life after Ted Lasso moves out of town, and like that show explodes because like everyone loves her character as who she is, like because they
yeah.
like her character, you know. Um, it's cool. It's fun. Um, what else is going on? How's work been?
Work has been good. Um, it's been busy. I always say when I have like nothing to do, because like it comes in waves of like having very little to do, and then all of a sudden everything comes at once. So during those like low troughs, I'm always like, man, I can't wait for it to like pick up. And then once it picks up, I'm always waiting for it to
When it's
there to be like
slow, what
nothing.
do you do?
I mean, I try to do as much as I can, and I like reach out and see if anybody needs help with other projects. But otherwise, I mean, I do what work I can, and then just have a
And what do you do
lot
with your
chiller
time?
days.
So what do you do? Are you on your phone? You on social media? You watch TV or read books? What do you do?
I mean, ideally, I'm finding something to do. If I really don't have anything, then I mean, part of it I try to stick somewhat related to my job and do like looking at research articles and stuff like that. If it's really, really slow and there's nothing, then
Is part of your job is also to keep up with research with new research articles coming out?
I'd say it's not against my job role. Like I think that definitely is a part. Like if there's ever a talk at Penn that I think is interesting that I want to go listen to, then I can schedule that as part of my day.
I've been listening to what about podcasts? Do what do you call it? Do you listen to podcasts for work? Are there doctors or research that publish on podcasts as like a
I
form of
mean,
news?
there definitely are. I don't listen to it for work, but I definitely listen to it when I'm just like walking around. Um, I kind of just look more based on topic, I feel like, than anything else. Just like I'll look up topics randomly and see if anybody's talking about them. Um,
To look like that. I only did that once before, but the problem with that method is that everyone talks about everything, and it's hard to find a good podcast, like good host.
well, sometimes I'll look up like specific doctors and see if they were like interviewed on podcasts. Some of like the more well-known doctors in the field usually are the ones who are interviewing, and they may be on Uberman or they may be on other ones, and I'll listen to those.
Trying to yeah, I had a hard time finding good podcasts by searching just for the caption. But I started listening more to I don't know. I'm like, do you listen to Dari the CEO ever?
Um, Definitely have listened to a couple of them.
And keep up with them with like the regularity that I keep up with a lot of other
There are
um
some that just come out with too much content to keep up.
excellent too. Yeah, I probably put out too much content. I probably fall into that boat. But I do because I specifically want to. I want it to be it feels productive to be doing it. you know, and
Yeah, and I mean the thing with podcasts is it's not like a TV show where like, oh, I have to. I mean, some of them are, I guess, but like you don't have to be like, oh, I have to listen to the last episode to understand what's going on in this episode. Like you pick and choose what's interesting to you.
yeah, it's been fun actually. So one of my ideas recently has been to start different series when I interview different professionals based on what it is. So if you go to the podcast page and you want and there's to my page, and then if you want you can either search obviously by the person that's being interviewed, or the different series that I'm doing. So there's a psychology series, a music series. There'll be probably a health series, I imagine, and I should have made a brewery series. I still could. I could just rename them, but because I already interviewed three, I guess three independent, brewery owners,
Yeah.
and I want to keep it up. It's fun. I don't really know what, I don't know what to talk to them all about. That's novel every time. Like I kind of have, like with brewers, I kind of have the same conversation pieces that I just kind of keep on going through, and then at a certain point, I don't know what else to talk about with other than like,
Yeah.
the beer. Um, but but yeah, so the idea of getting different, have you ever gone to Huberman's website before?
Honestly, no. I've only listened to the
His
podcast.
website is he is so user friendly to navigate, and he has this great AI feature that he can put in a keyword or a topic, and it tells you, and it goes through all the podcasts and tell you which episodes he discusses what with, and they're all time stamped, and like I mean there's an incredible amount of work and an incredible amount of resources.
Yeah.
Like it's just it's amazing. It's cool because when he was because if he was he says that his goal is to this make science accessible and free, and he's really really like I feel very comfortable telling a lot of people to like if they want to figure out how to like be healthy about day-to-day life, like like I'm very confident telling someone to go and just tell them to look up that particular topic, and they'll get a lot of very accessible and easy to understand information. You know, it's awesome. It's really really cool.
Yeah, no. He does some good interview. He's a very good interviewer just in general, and he's just very smart, obviously, and I mean, I go by like the researcher that he's interviewing more than anything. He's definitely someone that I'll only really go in and
Shorts
listen
recently.
to
You
if
see, he did the
he's
shorts.
who did he do?
Do you hear his shorts that he started doing? Once a week, he does like essentials, just like a 30-minute like just breakdown of like important topics, but that instead of like 2.5 hours, like you get the basic points in half an hour.
That I would appreciate that because that's one thing. His podcasts are
Yeah, he
very long.
started doing that like a month ago. Yeah, but
Oh,
yeah,
Essentials. I'm looking at it right now while
essentials.
we're talking now. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't listened to it yet because I kind of like the long form ones, and I like the ones with guests more than the solo episodes. I love his guests. You were just saying that
Yeah.
you.
I like specific like I'll listen to one. I'll usually listen to people that I know or that I've heard of. Like I just am now looking while we're talking and I see Dr. Becky Kennedy is I think she
I
was
listened to
on
most
one
of that.
episode
That was a long
before,
one.
but
Yeah,
I like her a lot.
yeah.
I
This
want
one
to
is
read her
really
book at
interesting.
one point, but I've got time for that. You should read her book maybe. You got another kid
By
on
the
board.
way, I've been getting almost all my book. I've been getting probably the last 10, 15 books that I've bought were based on guests that Huberman had. That I would listen to their podcast and be very excited about the book, and I'd buy the book while I was listening to the podcast. And I would say I'm about 50-50 with my with like as good as much as I enjoyed the guest, I enjoyed the book. I'd say it's like 50-50. It's
Yeah.
hard to write a really good book like that.
And I feel like honestly you get most of the highlights of the book just by listening to his interviews. But I did that once. I bought one book from one of the guests that he had on, and I've owned it for 2.5 years and I have not read it
Which
yet.
one was it? What
But
book was it?
but but I am looking forward to reading it. I just like I read so much fiction. I don't have time for nonfiction. It's called Brain Energy. I'm literally looking at it right now because I always have it on my desk because I'm always like, I'm gonna read it. But it's by
Who
Chris
wrote it?
Palmer, Dr. Chris Palmer, who's
Hmm.
a Harvard
Yeah, I heard of him.
doctor, yeah, psychiatrist. You probably heard his Huberman interview at some point, and he's very big on like keto diets and diets like the keto diet for treating different psychiatric
Yes.
diseases along with
Oh,
medication.
psychiatric.
Yeah. So like
Really?
specifically he talks about like psychotic disorders like schizophrenia and doing certain diets along with medication or for things like bipolar disorder, different psychiatric disorders doing different things with diet and thinking about psychiatric disorders as metabolic disorders, um, which he thinks, or at least he
Hmm.
makes the claim that he's like 95% of the way to the solution. I feel like, I don't know, I don't want to put words in his mouth. I think that he is hitting on a very strong part of the puzzle, but I still think that there's a lot more than that. But I do think that it's like a very interesting way to think of psychiatric diseases that I feel like is probably a large part of the puzzle that people weren't thinking about as much before he came along.
I mean, that was I think people we're pretty confident about what do you call it? About Alzheimer's and dementia kind of being type 3 diabetes as of recently, right? Like it's almost like a
I haven't
metabolic
heard of that.
no, you haven't? Yeah, dude.
No.
I've been reading a lot. I'm not reading a lot. I've been hearing a lot about it. And that um and yeah, that it might have more to do with our body's ability to break down, glucose and sugar and that, and then and I don't know how it translates over to the brain, but I've heard a lot of people talk about quite
I
a bit.
need to hear more of that because I'm slightly skeptical of of that.
Definitely, so definitely look into it, and then next time we do an episode, we'll talk about what the finding was, or if I knew what to talk about it, I'll actually do some I'll do some homework on it.
Send me if if Uberman talked to anyone or something like that,
Definitely,
who
yeah,
you
I've
listen
heard.
to, because I would be interested in listening more, but I definitely would go in with a skeptical mind. But like Uberman's BFF for his podcast, he did a 6-part series with Matthew Walker, who's like a sleep
Yes, yeah,
specialist. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Matthew Walker, and
yeah.
at least he has a very big thing on possible connections with sleep and Alzheimer's, which I find more compelling. But they may all be interconnected. But
They
I
could be,
mean,
by the way. I don't know.
they definitely are interconnected. But I
Right.
think the sleep one, I just like sleep, so maybe I'm biased, but
I
it
think
was
that things are a lot
convincing.
more interconnected than I think that we think. Than we like to look at them. You,
Yeah,
I think
it's hard because everyone has their specialty. So like, if you're studying sleep, you're gonna think of everything through a sleep lens, and if you're doing nutrition research, you're gonna think everything's nutrition based. So it's hard to know what you don't know.
yeah, and I think that's why we need. But I think that's why these podcasts are great. These podcasts are great because because it's a formal getting together of different backgrounds and allowing and giving it time, especially if they're long form. When you give it time and you just kind of see what emerges and what kind of comes out and what complements one another. And then it kind of, I mean, that helps set new. I mean, that's it's the essential like idea of like a charusa, is to have like
Yeah,
another idea to just another human being to bounce ideas off and another perspective to help forward yours. That's all I like listening. Like there's certain people in particular that when I listen to their podcasts, I listen to them talk. I hear them the way that they articulate things and look at things is such a different lens than or such a different like perspective. I almost feel like like we're standing in different spots, looking at the same thing, and they're just seeing another like at it from a totally different angle than what I'm capable of seeing. I listen. I'm like,
yeah,
whoa! I never thought to think of it like that. Not even that. Like I couldn't even think to consider it that way. And yeah, it's the that's one of my that's one of the benefits of listening to these kind of people is that, and it's funny because I still don't even think that way, but I become more aware of the subject or the potential, flaws, pros or cons, whatever it is, uh, just from listening to different people saying it.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's always important to come at anything with an open mind because you never know, even if the person's not 100% about a certain thing, they may answer a piece to the puzzle that you weren't expecting before.
I have to get there, dude. Anyway, I'm gonna call it here if that's cool with you, dude, because I
I
have
was about
to.
to say I gotta eat dinner, so
Nice. What are you making? I heard you prepping along the way.
yes,
What do you have?
just just some chicken and potatoes and carrots. Nothing too fancy. Randy's working a night shift, so it's just me tonight. She doesn't eat too much meat, and she doesn't eat any chicken, so that is what's for dinner.
It's all for you. What kind of chicken do you? How'd you make the chicken?
Honestly, very easy thing. I just put a bunch of different spices, olive oil, and threw it in the air fryer. I just put it all together in the air fryer.
The time?
Um, we use it. I use it a good amount.
Of course, because we didn't think we were going to use it enough.
I love air fryers. They also just cook things faster,
That's
which I
what's convenient
appreciate.
about them.
It's like a better microwave. It can like make things
The
fast,
microwave
but
either,
still
actually.
keep them crispy.
Crazy. Awesome. Okay, dude. Well, this is always a pleasure, and I love talking to you. And I'm gonna send you some articles about that Alzheimer's and type 3. I think it was specifically Alzheimer's. I don't think it was all dementia, but I think it was a specific type. Um, and yeah, we'll do this again soon, dude.
Okay,
And if
awesome.
not, we'll catch up and we'll do some writing together. Thank you for doing this, dude. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night.